question is, what advantage is achieved with spiritual development? And that question is asked in the context of survival on this planet. Where is the advantage for spiritual development? And then it is followed up with, is intentional suffering just a coping mechanism to deal with this horrible world? How is life any different for an enlightened person? Big questions. Questions that deserve to be answered. One might think that they would be obvious. How is life any different for an enlightened person? But in this day and age, where there are really no signposts, even in this age of information, it is important to help people understand, in the context of surviving on this planet in this time of uncertainty and stress, hyper-anxiety, unnatural living, how is it that a more spiritual person can function in a way that is advantageous as opposed to one who does not have these tools, these possibilities. So let's begin. What advantage? So you take your average person, thoroughly wired with anxiety, worry, anger, impatience, ambition, competition, stressed beyond belief, having to go to the gym to try to relieve it so it doesn't blow a few organs, and give people early heart attacks, in a world where every model around you in the movies and television, literature, politics, etc., everybody is in that state of what the fourth way calls identification. That is the norm, to be all caught up and hyper-focused on the external events of life and completely lost in them, giving oneself over to them and living from one crisis, one negative experience to another, with moments of temporary relief with the help of alcohol and whatever other distraction comes along, and then plunged right back into the morass of negativity which is considered normal by everyone you encounter. So that's life in this world without spiritual development. How is that different for an enlightened person? In the midst of this relentless storm of upsetness, of anger, of conflict, of fear, of worry about the future, of catastrophe from the past, the enlightened person is walking through this at peace, not caught up in any of the insanity, seeing it with an objective eye that is both compassionate and empathetic and understanding, but that does not buy into it. Because such a person knows the source of life and its purpose, and is very clear on the fact that what we are sold by our culture, by the news, by the three-dimensional box of secular materialism, is a complete lie. We do not have to be caught up in the insanity just because everybody else is. And the fact is, it is only such people who have found solid ground internally who are not swept away by whatever next crisis comes along, who are not intimidated by the powers that be. It is only such persons who can actually help the world, because they are not drowning in it. Such people do not live in idealism, have not escaped the world. They are in the world but not of it, quite literally, and therefore can make intelligent decisions from a serene place, from a place that sees alternatives, that sees right action. And so if the aim is survival of family and such in difficult times, then such a person makes the right conclusions and choices for enabling survival without being ripped apart by the stress and anxiety of the times or the circumstances that they find themselves in. Our friend mentions here they feel desperately sad and afraid when it comes to thoughts of survival. Imagine if you approach survival without being desperately sad or afraid. Imagine if that was removed from the equation. Imagine if your peace and joy did not depend on anything external. Imagine the liberation, the freedom, the sanity. This is not fantasy. This is what others have found in every time and place, in every century and culture, down through the ages. It is a timeless, universal truth, methodologies, instructions, teachings, knowledge, gnosis, awakening that is meant to be the purpose of our lives. We are not here merely to survive. We are here to find and make contact with and be in communion with the very source of our existence, which is the deepest mystery and wonder of all, and which our culture has intentionally buried. The obscenity and blasphemy of the God is dead business of the 50s and 60s, or whenever that came about, is the natural outgrowth of human pride gone totally off the deep end. 18th century Enlightenment, 19th century Industrial Revolution and rationalism, hundreds of years now, where the universe has been turned inside down, upside down, and only the human mind knows and matters. No humility, no awe and wonder, just self-determination and basing all truth and reality on what we can measure and figure out, and thinking that that is the answer. Well, clearly it is not the answer, and your very condition is the proof of it, you and millions of others. The enlightened person is one who is able to manifest the greatest courage because A, they stay true to themselves, to their deepest selves, when everybody else has sold out, knowingly or unknowingly, and have the courage to stand firm on their knowledge of truth and to be able to sacrifice themselves fully for that which has ultimate meaning for them, and is able to face our mortality and this world's lunacy without trembling in fear. An enlightened person knows that they are a passenger, a pilgrim through time, and all priorities are shifted. This is accessible to anyone who is seriously sensitized to the fact that there's got to be a deeper truth and purpose to this existence, and who feels a yearning within to hunt for it against all odds even, who doesn't buy into the career thing fully, only to come to a dead end at some point, but who knows that there is so much more to be found in this brief journey. The spiritual life is a difference between a barren, desolate, desperate existence and the true fruition and fulfillment and joy of living in this universe and recognizing the glory of what that means.